Hello ladies and gentlemen, Adam Steele from Hot Pole Studios here, and today we are taking a deeper look at Eventide's SplitEQ. You may recently have seen me do a quick overview of guitars using SplitEQ on the Produce Like a Pro channel, and so here I am to give the full deep dive. Thanks to Eventide for sending this over. Thanks to Produce Like a Pro for sorting this all out. There is a giveaway in the description as well. If you want to get a copy of this for yourself, check that out in the description down below. So, here we are. And I've got the song Pirates by Maysetto, which we've been mixing live on the stream. And I've already put SplitEQ on the guitars, which I'm going to briefly gloss over, but let's have a quick listen to a section of the track. So on the guitars here, you can see that I've got quite a lot going on. There's blue bits, there's green bits. Let's talk about that. The green bits are the transients, and the blue bits are the tonal bits, or the everything else. So what's happening here is I can choose whether to affect the transients, which is the boom, chack, hits, grinds, anything that's here and gone, anything that's like a kick drum's boom or a hi-hat's tick, or anything that's just the quick bit, that's the transient, and everything else is what we would then consider the tonal bit. So what I've done with the guitar here is I've lifted the low end only on the transient, so when it goes chug, 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 it goes whoa, whoa, but only on those hits and not the rest of the time, which we can hear on this section.
The ship that I was.
So what I did is I chose a source at the bottom here and chose this to be a guitar, and that changes how it detects its transients, and you can choose how much you want to separate the transient from the source. The decay and the smoothing are just how much of the hit we want to affect and how much we want to leave left alone. I've left those as they were by default on this guitar, and so I've got a nice high frequency lift that only, again, affects the chig chig chig, which means that on sections like this, that is not having its high frequency or its low frequency lifted. That's basically just a long section where we don't want to add and the flubbiness at the bottom. But what we do want to do is remove a couple of these whistle frequencies. So I've done what you would do with a regular EQ, but on the usual kind of the chugs and the starts and stops of the guitar, that is not being cut, which means that we've not removed the teeth of the guitar, so to speak. So on those attacks, it's got that anger, but it's there and gone, which means that it gives the kind of the un-EQ'd sound on those attacks, but everything else it's then got out the way. Really useful. And then I've bumped the mids a little bit very broadly on the guitars, but only when it's not the attacks, because I didn't want the attacks to have kind of a mid honk to them. But that means that it sits in the mix a little better, and overall it sits like this. So the next thing that I'm going to try is looking at the drums. I'm just going to slap SplitEQ on the entire drum bus because I can. Why not? And let's just see what happens. Let's change the source to full drum set, and let's just listen to the using this control down here, just the transients, and then we'll try and change it so that we can detect which bits are just the hits. Isn't that awesome that bum 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 but damn, we're basically not hearing the cymbals at all. And then we go back to the full mix. So if we had, say, a drum loop that was already baked in, I could now go and use this and find a kind of a horrible frequency in the overheads, which is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to make this a little bit narrower. And there was a frequency I didn't like in there. And I just took 2 decibels off that frequency without affecting the snap of the snare, without affecting the woomph of the kick. So another thing I could do, let's get that woomph of the snare, that doosh, and just have a bit more of it. Again, assuming that this is baked in. Now that's fascinating because that's nearly a 4 dB bump at 400-500 hertz. I would never do that on a drum kit with a regular EQ because I don't want a horrible mid hump coming out. But you can hear how that just made that snare suddenly feel beefy. But the blue line is what I would usually hear. And if I turn this up, yeah, suddenly that's swallowing the low mids of the mix-up. But let's hear this in context now. So those drums are sounding huge. Now the vocals, especially when it gets to the chorus there, I'm starting to lose them a little bit. And I don't just want to make them louder because making things just generally louder means you end up in a balancing war again, you end up turning it back down again, and you end up getting back to where you were. So I'm going to try something a little different. I'm going to get the mid frequencies here nice and broad, and I'm going to change this to a vocal on the detector at the bottom. Let's just listen to the transients on the vocal group.
Well, I guess things change over time. Yeah, a friend I once called mine. We could easily sail, so maybe I'm from yesterday.
So that sounds really weird because it's being sent to all the different effects, like this slaps and EQs and all sorts of stuff going on there. Is the slap just to send? Yeah, okay, so that's separate. So that suddenly, that was with us isolating the mids. So what we're going to do is bring out the high mids, but only on the transients. Let's see what that does.
Well, I guess things change over time. Yeah, a friend I once called mine. We could easily sail, so maybe. Well, I guess things change over time. Yeah, a friend I once called mine.
So without, it's a little bit oversaturated, a little bit over distorted, but with this in, this is bringing that out, the detail only on those kind of transients.
Well, I guess things change.
Let's try it in the mix now.
Well, I guess things change over time. Yeah, a friend I once called mine. We could easily sail, so maybe I'm from yesterday, broke free.
So a little bit more volume automation required, I think. But this is an incredibly powerful tool that I didn't have to try very hard there to start bringing out things I wanted, start hiding things I didn't want. Let's just have a look at the bass. Okay, so I've set the source to bass, and now I'm just bringing out the low end and the top end on the definition here. Let's see what that does once I take it out of listen mode. So I could do this all day, but safe to say that's a very, very powerful tool, and I'm going to be using that a lot. You'll see me on live streams now using this. I keep an eye on the channel because we're going to be going back to more live mixing, and where there's a sound where I need a slight EQ move, I'll probably be using something like SplitEQ now, because the fact that I can manipulate transients in specific EQ bands in such an easy to read way, that's going to change a lot, because it means that I don't need transient designers anymore so much. It means that I don't need to be manipulating 5 different plugins. That's going to change a lot. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. Thanks to Eventide for sending this over. Thanks to Produce Like a Pro. What kind of EQs do you guys use? Do you think you'll be using something like this as this technology comes along? Let me know in the comments. Thanks again. Give us a like on the channel, hit subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And thank you for watching. I'll see you all in the next video. See you later. Hey everyone, that might be the end of the video, but if you fancy carrying on this conversation, we have a Discord server, link is in the description. We're also on Patreon, which is something you can really help us with. We also are on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at Hop Pole Studios. See you there.